Okay, next thing I'd like to do is let's add support for multiple groups. At the moment we have one group consisting of these 4 people. I'd like to be able to support multiple groups. We're still going to leave them hard-coded, but eventually, we'll abstract that away and make it more flexible. So for now, let's go to our people service, people provider, and let's move this group of people into a group. So first we'll define what a group is. I'm going to say interface group, and I'm going to say a group consists of a group name, which is a string, and people, which is a person array. Alright, that looks pretty good so far. Next thing I want to do is actually create a couple of groups. So to help us in that, I'm going to take these people and I'm just going to take them out of here and I'm going to put them here. And I'm going to call these people the bears. And now I'm going to create a group called, well, I'm going to say let groups equals an array of, well, actually let's declare what groups is going to be. Groups is going to be group array. And now I can create my first group, and it has to have a name. So we'll say group name, and we'll give it a nice name for, for the visible portion. It's the bears. We'll actually see this in the UI when we're selecting between groups. And the next thing we need is the actual people. So I could type in a fresh array, or I can just say the bears, which makes it, I think, a little easier to read. Cool. Now I need a second group, so I'm going to say, let's say let the enchanted. So I'm going to create a group called the enchanted, and that's an array. Once again, we have an array that's got name, and we'll start giving it names. And I think you'll see the pattern here. I'm going to say the first person here is Doc, and next person. And actually, I'm just going to fill this up with a bunch of blank names for starters. And I want this to be a slightly bigger group so that we, fill the whole screen. So we'll say Doc, Dopey, Grumpy, and let's go Slimy. Yeah, Slimy was one of my favorites. Let's see, Smelly, of course. Happy. And who could forget Inky, Blinky, need an N there, don't want to mistype anything, and our good friend Clyde. Oh, and let's add someone named Snow. Okay, so that is the enchanted. Not too bad. So, okay, so let's create our second group now. And actually, I'm going to put the second group first because I want them to come up by default. So I'm going to say group name. We'll just call them Enchanted. And the people in this group are the Enchanted. Very nice. So let's go down to our get people function, and now we can pull the people out of the groups. So what's going to change in get people is someone's going to have to pass in the group that they want. So we'll say group name is a string. Okay, and now that we've got the group name, we can just go through all the groups and find the one that has the matching name. So to do that, we're going to use the find operator. So we'll say groups.find, and we're going to say, we're going to use a lambda expression. gr for group, and we're going to say gr.people, right? Oh, sorry, group name. And it's nice we can see auto completion by TypeScript. I don't know if you caught that. Group name. Sweet. So this is going to return a group for us. Okay, so it's either going to return a group or it could return nothing if there is no matching group. So we're going to do a check here. So inside here we're going to say we're going to check if group is truthy. If it's truthy, then what we want is the people out of that group. Otherwise we want an empty array. Does that make sense? Cool. I'm not sure why it's giving us an error here. Oh, right. So we can see a couple of errors here. First one is on line 42 of this file. Oh, forgot my comma. And the second thing is going to be the code that calls this is now taking a string parameter, and because we're using TypeScript, it actually notices that discrepancy. So I'm going to go over to the home group, and here we're calling getPeople, and although Visual Studio Code doesn't actually show us the error, we can see it over here. We can see that, hey, we're calling getPeople and the signatures don't match. So we need to pass in what group of people we're interested in. So I'm just going to start by saying enchanted, and we'll save that. And if we're lucky, and I think we'll be lucky, I think we've got all our problems fixed. So now when we get a group of people, when we say get people, we pass in this group, and depending on what we pass in, we get a different group back up. So just waiting for this to compile. Save, come on. Well, that took a while to start up. Okay, well it was watching our files, and it just took a bit to notice that we had a change, but everything compiled. Oh, it looks like it finished. And either we have a problem or else, let's see, it does say that it's finished. Looks like it worked, so we can debug this problem. But before we debug this problem in depth, let's just check our logic here real quick. We're calling our new getPeople. I go in here. GetPeople now takes this group name, uses that group name to go through all the groups and find the matching group, where we take our group name and we say, hey, are you a group that has that group name? Everything looks pretty good to me. Now Visual Studio Code says, hey, you may have a problem here, but I don't think so. Excuse me. I think our environment is just a little confused. So we're going to hit Control-C, and we're going to start it up again. Looks like it's almost done. When it's done, this should refresh. Or actually, since we restarted, it should pop up a new window. That's better. So we didn't actually have a problem. I think things were just a little slow. Right, so now we're using our groups, and now we've got a group that consists of all those fine people. And yeah, we have a much bigger group, and now we have a couple of groups. So if only we had the ability to switch between groups. That'll be coming next. Thank you. All right, so now I know we want to switch between groups, But actually, I just thought of something before we switch between groups. We do need to be able to enumerate what the groups are. So let's add that. In our people provider, currently the only thing you can ask for is get the people and pass in a group name. But we also want the ability to get a list of all the groups. And so let's just add that. Let's say get groups. And I think what I want to do with this particular function is, well, we want to do the right thing here. We want to return an observable. And we don't want to return all the groups, but we want to return all the group names. So I'm just going to say that it returns an observable. It'll return a string array. String, undo. Okay, that should do it. Right. So similar to what we did before, we're just going to use that observable of as a convenience. If we needed to do something that took a long time, we could do it. We're just going to use observable of to return like a hard-coded array. So let's go up here, and we can see right here the two group names. So I'm going to create another. Let's see. What do I want to do? Actually, a good point. I didn't want to change that. I want to go through the groups, and we want to map them into a string that just contains the groups, the group names. So we're going to take those groups. So we're going to say return groups, and we're going to map that. And what are we going to do? We're going to take each of those groups, so it's gr, and what we want to map it to will be the group name. So gr.group name, and that should do it. So now when we, actually this will return an array of groups, and what we want is an observable. So let's do this. Let's go let group names equals, that looks pretty good. Get group names. Let's see. And then we're going to do this observable of trick again. So I'll just copy this code here. And I don't think we need this protection anymore, because this will return an empty set if that's what we got. So we'll just do this. Awesome. And of course, we see a red underline here. What did we forget? Well, we forgot to say this. Sorry, I forgot to say this. So that should do it. So yes, now get groups. We access this member called groups. That's why it's complaining, groups. Yes. Oh, it's not a member. We actually created this as a variable in the scope outside. So actually it's inappropriate to say this. We just want to say groups. That'll work. Very cool. So get groups takes those groups, and it'll only return the group names. And that's exactly what we want this function to do. So actually, let's call it get group names. Cool. So we don't need this function yet, but we will in the next step when we we add a menu item to show all the available groups. So I'm going to check this code in, and we'll use it in the next step. Thank you.